Praise ye Yahweh, sing unto Yahweh. So praising Yahweh, singing to him, right? A new song. And his praise in the congregation of saints, Israelites. Let Israel rejoice in him that made him. Let the children of the remembered ones, to Zion one, be joyful in their king. Let them praise his name, Yahweh, and the dance. Let them sing. See, praise and sings in the same sentence. Sing praises unto him with the timbrel and the harp. For Yahweh taketh pleasure in his people, the Israelites. He will beautify the meek, we the meek, with salvation. He's going to save us, the elect. Salvation means to be saved from impending danger, right? Delivered from impending danger. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing or praise. Let them sing aloud upon thy beds. We're going to be getting up in the morning. So we're going to get up in the morning singing. Hey, you're going to get up, you lay with one of your wives or concubines or whatever. So when we get up in the morning, we're going to have a smile on our face. That's what Psalm 149 is talking about. When we get up in the morning, we're going to be singing and dancing. We're going to go to sleep happy. We're going to get up happy. We're going to eat happy. Every time we eat some food, it's going to be good. So a typical morning in the kingdom, the first coming to America. Akeem, he was in the kingdom of heaven. So that's how we're going to be. We're going to be able to communicate with the animals. And you other nations, number one on the list is going to be you Edomites. You're going to be out in the field, getting your ass whipped, working your ass off. To Psalm 149, it said we're going to wake up praising the Most High in our beds. When we go to sleep, we're going to go to sleep happy. We're going to get a good night's sleep too. We ain't going to be waking up in the middle of the night coughing or going to the bathroom. There's a saying, waking up on the wrong side of the bed. We're going to wake up on the right side of the bed every day. Yeah. We're going to wake up on the right side of the bed. Our Johnsons are going to be at attention. Your women are going to be fine, no blemishes whatsoever. All your wives are going to be perfect. And all your wives are going to be virgins. And they're all going to be young. And none of them are going to commit adultery with you. The 7 women shall take hold of one man. It's going to happen on this side, brother. And it's going to continue to happen on the other side. Hey, the scripture said we're going to raise his name in the dance, right?
Psalm 149. Praise ye the Lord. Sing unto the Lord a new song, and his praise in the congregation of saints. Let Israel rejoice in him that made him. Let the children of Zion be joyful in their king. Let them praise his name in the dance. Let them sing praises unto him with the timbrel and harp. The Lord taketh pleasure in his people. He will beautify the meek with salvation. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of God be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise ye the Lord.
Good morning, Your Highness.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakodash, and do my honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the 4 winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the living, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Shah. All right. So what I want to get into today, dealing with the golden age of Israel. All right, and better than our first estate, which that's a promise. All right, in the book of Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, which we're going to get into it. All right. So when it says, better than our first estate, well, we have to understand what our first estate was, going back to that golden age of Israel. All right, during the reign of King David and King Solomon. Okay, which that was about 80 years, total. And that will be considered the golden age of Israel. All right, and that's what Yahweh Shai is bringing back, forever. All right, who was King Solomon, as Elder Apostle Har, he says all the time how the kingdom of heaven, all right, is going to be like the time of Solomon, all right, all over again, except in a more glorified state, because we're going to be immortals, all right, we're going to be perfect according to the law, all right, so it's going to be, it's like the Most High hitting the play button on the era, okay, of King Solomon, okay, in a more glorified state, okay, so this is what we, got to look forward to. This is what we're coming back to, okay, when you go here to the book of Acts, see, because the scriptures speak about restoration. See, Jake is, Jake forever, been talking about reparations. Well, our reparations are in the scriptures, all right, and the Esau Edom, the devil, here it is, this nigga won't even, this nigga won't give you a raise on minimum wage, all right, and you expect him to restore you, okay, see, the Lord is going to really restore us, okay, back to our glory, okay, and it ain't going to be, all right, with FRN notes, okay, a direct deposit, okay, we can't be restored, right, as a nation with direct deposit. No, we're going to be restored back in rulership, okay, our wealth is going to be resources, okay, not this corrupt, all right, wicked, money system of Esau Edom, okay. So let's go here to the book of Acts. It says, when they therefore will come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, without at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel. All right, so they're asking, because this is after the resurrection, and because first, they were sad, because Yahushua was crucified. Okay, and they was thinking like, no, the kingdom is back. He was doing the miracles. Okay, and so they seen the power. So like, look, he finna take down Rome. And then he died. All right, he was crucified. Okay, but then he was resurrected. All right, so this is after, he was brought back to life. Okay, and they like, Lord, now we know it's the time to restore the kingdom. All right, again to Israel. Okay, and if the kingdom was for other nations, wouldn't Yahushua have corrected him? When he have corrected them for asking for a kingdom for Israel, for one nation of people? Okay, no, because the kingdom is for Israel, but it wasn't time. All right, and when they say restore again, which means what, we was in rulership before. So what period do you think they were speaking of? Okay, they was talking about the golden age, man. Let's go to the word restore. Okay, they were talking about when we was in our prime. You see, so you go to the word restore. All right, in the Greek.
Strong's G600, apakathistemi. Apakathistemi.
Apakathistemi. All right, it said to restore to its former state, to be in its former state. Okay, and what was our former state? When will we? All right, when did we have? All right, dominion in the earth. Okay, so that's why you go here, and then we'll go back into some things. And see, this is why. All right, this Bible isn't for everyone. that's built to understand, what's happening in real time. All right. And we talk about a transition of power. Well, this is going to be a true transition from the government of Esau Edom to the government of Israel under Yahushua. Okay. Now, when you go to Matthew 13:10, it says, and the disciples, all right, came and said unto him, why speakest thou unto them in parables? Okay. And he answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. So Yahushua will teach in parables, okay, amongst the masses, but then he will break it down, amongst those who is meant to get it. Okay, just like today, the masses of Israel have no clue of what the Lord is doing right now. All right, and that the Lord is gathering his people, all right, and getting ready to restore them back in power. You see, there's only a remnant that's going to come to that understanding, okay, of what Yahweh Bashim Al-Shah is doing in the earth. Okay, and then the mysteries of the kingdom. Well, you go into a kingdom, all right, we always get it. Okay, you go into the word kingdom. All right, you get it in the Greek.
Strong's G 932. Basileia.
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 Okay, it says royal power, kingship, dominion, or rule. Okay, so every Israelite is not privy to the dominion that's coming to the 12 tribes. All right, most of our people still don't even care about being an Israelite, let alone the promises that's attached to their lineage. Okay, and you jump down, it says a kingdom, the territory subject to the rule of a king. Okay, and that's going to be in the planet Earth. That's going to be the territory that's going to be subject, okay, to the rule of Israel. It's going to be the planet Earth. Let's get a precept to prove that in the book of Acts. Okay, it links, all right, the book of Romans. Romans 4, I'm getting NLT. All right, and it links the promises. Okay, there was a promise to Abraham to what? World dominion. Okay, this is Romans 4. All right, and 13 said clearly the Most High promised to give the whole earth. Okay, so the kingdom that we're promised, because we're of their lineage of Abraham, all right, Isaac, and Jacob. So the kingdom that we're promised, okay, that territory, all right, is the whole earth. You see, the dew of heaven. You see, and the dew of heaven covers everything. Mountains, grass, everything. Okay, it says clearly the Most High promised to give the whole earth to Abraham, and his descendants was based not on his obedience to the Most High's law, but on the right relationship with the Most High that comes by faith. Okay, and see, if we talk about the kingdom amongst our people, we'll be a laughing stock. Okay, because it's only given to a remnant to believe in this, man. Okay, that Israel, the 12 tribes, beginning with the elect, is getting ready to rule the earth in righteousness, man, forever. All right, and this is going to be us being restored. Okay, now let's go from there. All right, let's go from there. So I asked the chat a couple questions, just to get an insight of the time of King David and King Solomon. So I asked the chat. All right, we'll jump back. Now I got some numbers, together too. And all right, said with the era of King David. So I asked her, would the era of King David and King Solomon be considered Israel's golden age? It says yes. The era of King David and King Solomon, roughly 1000 to 920 BCE, is traditionally regarded as ancient Israel's golden age. All right. Here's why that period is often given that title: political and military strength. All right. From 110 to 170 unified. It's like from uh 1010 BC to 970 BC, unified the 12 tribes of Israel, established Jerusalem as the capital, and secured the kingdom's borders through successful military campaigns. Under Solomon, Israel reached its greatest territorial extent and enjoyed relative peace and stability. Solomon expanded trade networks throughout the Near East, notably with Tyre, Egypt, and Arabia. The king's wealth grew through trade, tribute, and resource exploitation, especially copper and gold. Culture and religious flourishing. David brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, establishing it as a spiritual and political center. Solomon built the first temple, creating a centralized place of worship and symbolizing Israel's covenant with the Most High. Wisdom, literature, all right, and artistic achievements are traditionally associated with Solomon's reign. The combined reigns of David and Solomon, King David and King Solomon, are seen as a rare moment of national unity between the later division, okay, into the northern kingdom, all right, Israel, and the southern kingdom, Judah, okay. It says biblical writers and later, all right, let's say Jewish, all right, and Christian traditions look back at this era as the ideal model of divine blessing and just rule, a benchmark which later kings were judged, okay. It says, of course, from a historical, critical perspective, and this is Esau, all right, hating, and we're gonna go into that. You know, show you that Esau is just a hater because you can go into the Bible and see, okay, that King David and King Solomon, my goodness, okay, we're gonna go into these numbers, man. Okay, it says, of course, from historical, I ain't gonna read that nigga, man. You know, and then even on here, you know, chat didn't even want to give King David that credit, man. You know, it said, dude, it said that King David. So I asked, did King David accumulate vast wealth during his reign? Precepts to show David's wealth and how much he gave to the building of the temple. It says, excellent question. Yes, according to the biblical record, King David did accumulate vast wealth during his reign and dedicated much of it to the construction of the temple of the Lord, which is his son Solomon, which his son Solomon will later build. Below is a breakdown of biblical precepts, scriptural references, and details showing David's wealth and what he contributed towards the temple. 2 Samuel 8:6 and 11 through 12. It said, then David put garrisons, in Aram and Damascus and Syrians, and the Syrians became servants to David during bringing tribute. And the Lord preserved David wherever he went. King David dedicated these to the Lord with the silver and gold that he had dedicated from all the nations which he subdued. Okay, all wealth was flowing into King David. You see, everything was flowing, to Jerusalem. Okay, amongst the 12 tribes. All right, when you think about, the tribes, you think of Benjamin, your so-called Jamaicans, Issachar, so-called Mexicans. Okay, you have Gad, so-called Native American, so forth and so on, where all tribes were together and all wealth was flowing to those people. Okay, all these peoples of Central, North, and South America, which our people are everywhere, but a bulk of them are in these locations, going back, to the 12 tribes chart according to prophecy. Okay, Manasseh and Cuba, Dominican Republic. Okay, then Simeon, the Levites, Haiti, so forth and so on. But there was a time when all these people were in the land of Jerusalem and all the wealth was flowing to their people. Okay, under the reign of King David and King Solomon, the wealth of the earth flowed to those people. Okay, it says, with the silver and gold that he had dedicated from all the nations which he subdued, from Syria, from Moab, from the people of Ammon, from the Philistines, from Amalek. All right, these small had these bankers. All right, King David had the people that are the bankers today. All right, they were tributaries under King David. King David had his boot on their neck. Okay, it says, and from the spoil of Hadadezer, son of Rehob, king of Zabah. So kings were paying tribute to King David. King David was like what? A king of kings. Okay, it said David, it says meaning David's victorious, so like David's victories brought in immense tribute, all right, of gold, silver, and bronze, which he dedicated to the Most High for future temple use. Now, all right, finna go get into, all right, some numbers. Okay. You know, let's get into these numbers. So First Chronicles 22:14, it says, now behold, in my trouble I have prepared for the house, okay, of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Al Shai 100,000 talents of gold and 1,000,000 talents of silver, all right, and of bronze and of iron without weight for its abundance. You see, so we're going to get the numbers on this gold and silver. And remember, bronze and iron was without weight. So it was you couldn't even measure how much it was. Okay? Now you go into it, it says 100,000 talents of gold, all right, and 1,000,000 talents of silver is an enormous figure. One talent is 75 pounds. All right, and that's how we're going to convert these numbers. Okay? So 100 talents of gold is roughly 3,400 metric tons of gold. And this is what he donated for the building of the temple. All right. Now let me show you. Listen to chat. Okay. Chat trying to hate, because chat bias. You know, we be cornering chat into telling the truth. Okay. But chat bias is here. And it said this is likely hyperbolic or symbolic. Nigga, how is this hyperbolic or symbolic? And he's telling you exactly what he gave. The measurements are recorded. This ain't hyperbolic or symbolic. It said emphasizing immense wealth and devotion rather than literal amounts, man. All right? Chat hating, you know? And see, these devils know. You see, when I first read this, you know, it gave me a good laugh. I said, chat, man. You know, King David, the Lord bless King David, man. All right, so let's get into these numbers. So going back to what they say, so one talent is 75 pounds. So it was 100,000 talents of gold. So 75 times 100,000 is 7.5 million. So let's go here. Okay. And 1,000,000 talents of silver. So we'll get both. All right. So when you convert that today, you see. So let's go here. How much is 7.5 million pounds of gold worth today? It says 7.5 million pounds of gold is worth approximately $1.795 trillion today, based on the current spot price of about $2,300 per troy ounce. Okay, so in today's money, all right, this would be almost $2 trillion in gold that he gave for the building of the temple. Okay, you see, it's crazy amount of wealth that was transferred to King Solomon. And then King Solomon flipped that, you know, because we're gonna go into all right, King Solomon. All right, so that was the goal. So you go into the silver. Okay, let's get the silver. So it was 1,000,000. All right, talents of silver. Okay, so you multiply that by 75, that's 75 million pounds. So 75 million pounds of silver is worth approximately 1.5 trillion today. Okay, so you're talking about 3.3, you know, trillion dollars almost of silver and gold. And remember, the bronze and iron couldn't be measured. Okay, the bronze and iron couldn't even be measured. You see, so how much was given? You see, for the building of the temple. You see, King David, you know, he set Solomon up. Okay, and that's not even the precious stone. That's not including the wood. Okay. Man, and this is just the temple, man. The temple could easily, in today's money, all right, could be worth 5 trillion, over 5 trillion, easy, just with those numbers with the gold and silver. Okay. So when and remember, the Lord said He's gonna do what's better than this. Okay, and it's gonna be in righteousness. You see, this was when we was as a people, we was on point. We wasn't perfect, but we was on point. You know. So imagine when we're perfected. Okay, how the Lord gonna do us, man. All right. So, let me see. Was there some more? Oh yeah, yep. So let's go back to the chat, and then we'll say what is Solomon. Then we'll go back into some prophecy. So, um, go back during this time. All right. So it said David's, all right, personal offering. All right. First Chronicles 29. All right. Verses 3 and 4 says, moreover, because I have set my affection on the house of my power, I have given to the house of my power over and over above all that I have prepared for the holy house, my own special treasure of gold and silver, 3,000 talents of gold, and the gold of Ophir, and 7,000, all right, talents of refined silver to overlay the walls of the house. Okay, and when you go into these numbers and this was out of King David's personal treasury. Okay, the first offering was out of the national treasury. Okay, that's what that's the treasury. Okay, to run the nation, to run the kingdom. Okay, King David pulled out of that treasury to donate to the temple, and then now he's pulling out his personal treasury. Okay, which King David gave out his own personal treasury in gold. Okay, so 250,000 pounds of gold. All right, is worth approximately 4.8 billion US today. All right, US dollars today, and the silver that he gave, all right, 525,000 pounds of silver, all right, will be worth 307, all right, 306 million, So he gave, almost what is it? Yep, a little bit over 5 billion, okay, of his own treasury for the building, okay, of the temple, okay. So when you keep, let me see if it has some more. All right, it said this offering came from David's personal fortune, not the national treasure. It says the people and leaders contribute as well. It said then the rulers of the father's house, leaders of the tribes of Israel, captains of thousands and of hundreds, with the officers over the king's work, offer willingly. Then the people rejoiced, for they had offered willingly, because with a loyal heart they had offered to the Lord. David's generosity inspired national participation. Everyone gave voluntarily, showing that the kingdom as a whole shared in the wealth and devotion. Okay, so everybody had, wealth. Okay, under you see the time of King David. You see, so when you go here and see, King David was extremely humble. Okay, he was thankful, for the blessings of the Lord. All right. When you go to First Chronicles 29 and 11 and 12 and 16 says, yours, O Lord, is the greatness, the power and the glory, the victory and the majesty, both riches and honor come from you, O Lord. And how about Shema Shah, our power? All this abundance that we have prepared to build your house for your holy name is from your hand and is all your own. So King David knew where those blessings came from. Okay? Extremely appreciative. And we're going to appreciate the kingdom. And we're going to know fully where this all came from. Because part of our fall was us becoming proud. you know, full of ourselves, you see. But on that era of King David, you know, he, like as we always go into, so is the king, so are the people. Well, he had humility, and he was a priest, okay, and he was extremely, you know, well off, and the nation was well off, and they continue on into the era of King Solomon, okay. And you gotta remember, King David was was a shepherd boy. This all happened in one lifetime, okay, and you can't find nobody that came up like this in one lifetime in existence than this time during King David and King Solomon. You know, Jake, you know, argue back and forth about, you know, who sold the most dope, you know, Rayful Edmonds, Frank Lewis, Cornell Williams, you know, Rick Freeway, Ricky Ross, they you know, they argue about them niggas who sold the most dope. Listen, nobody in existence, okay? Because even what the Rothschilds got now, it took centuries for the elite bankers to get where they at now. King David was a shepherd boy, okay? And he did, and the Lord, come on, man. So let's go from there. So now let's go to the time of Solomon. All right. So you go, and I asked you about specific precepts. Like I said, you got a corner, the chat. You know, you try to get out on you. It says, so I said, what does 1 Kings 10 and 27 tell us about the economy of Israel during the time of King Solomon? All right. So go to 1 Kings 10 and 27 in the NIV. It says, the king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and cedar as plentiful as the sycamore, fig trees in the foothills. This verse gives a strong, all right, indication of Israel economic prosperity during King Solomon reigns. Here's what it reveals. Okay. It says wealth and abundance. Silver was as common as stones, meaning that there was an extraordinary level of wealth and access to precious metal. This suggests a thriving economy with abundant trade, tribute, and production. Trade, all right, and international relations. Solomon's wealth came in part from international trade networks, alliances with nations like Tyre, Egypt, and others brought in goods such as gold, silver, horses, and cedar wood. The mention, the mention of cedar, a luxury wood from Lebanon, shows the extent of foreign imports and advanced infrastructure projects like the temple, all right, and the palace, all right, because he says cedar, which is a luxury wood from Lebanon, all right. He said it was like the sycamore tree, like fig trees. It was common, showing you that there's a lot of resources flowing into Jerusalem, man, flowing into Israel as a whole. Okay, it was a lot of resources. All right, because of what the Lord allowed King David to establish. Okay, and King Solomon he inherited it, and he just took it to a whole nother level. And you see what King David was at, and King Solomon just took that to a whole nother level. Okay, he said the verse portrays Jerusalem as highly developed urban center with material abundance extending even to construction, all right, in everyday life. The economic, all right, success was not just royal wealth, but reflected in widespread prosperity within the kingdom. Okay, true generational wealth. You see, we was on. This is what the disciples was talking about when Yahweh Shai, all right, was resurrected, and you know, in the book of Acts, the first chapter, they were talking about this. Okay, what else could they be talking about? All right, they were like, shit, we back. Well, we know we back now. Okay, they seen the Romans, how you know, the nobility of Romans, you know, these wicked Romans who living, man, and you know, they're like, we know we back now. Okay, but it wasn't that time. But now we getting here. That's why Esau, the Lord got Esau fast tracking, all right, his little new world order, all right, agenda. You know, we just waiting on Esau to fail. You know, we back. We just waiting on this nigga to fail, man. He just, hey, tighten your ass up, man. Trump and you know, y'all tighten your ass up, man. You know, go ahead, hit the Insurrection Act. All right, go ahead, go with your digital ID and eventually the CHIP and the goddamn it, help. All right, jump your ass in that war with the small hats in Iran, so it can bring these other nations in, so all this shit can collapse, man. Okay, and we can get back to the business, man. Okay, let's see. Yep. So y'all let's get back to it. You know, me and Beyond. You know, we trying to get back to the business, man. So let's go back to it. It says symbol of Solomon's wisdom and administration. Said the wealth described is seen as a result of Solomon's wise governance and effective management of trade and resources, as earlier, all right, chapters described. All right. It says 1 Kings 10 and 27 portrays Israel under Solomon as a golden age of prosperity. You see, as a golden age of prosperity, marked by wealth, trade, and abundance, a high point in the nation's economic, all right, and political history. Okay. So I asked another question. I said, what does 1 Kings 8 and 5 tell us about the resources of ancient Israel during the time of King Solomon? Now, what does it say in 1 Kings? Now, this is after the temple was built, you know, and they began to sacrifice, all right, to dedicate the temple. 1 Kings 8 and 5 in the NIV, it said, King Solomon and the entire assembly of Israel that had gathered about him were before the ark, sacrificing so many sheep and cattle that they could not be recorded or counted. It's to the point that they ain't even count no more. You see? By the time you get to King Solomon, they're not even counting anymore, man. You know, and in the kingdom, you're not gonna have no net worth in the kingdom, man. Okay, you're just gonna be good. You know, every brother net worth you're just gonna be straight. Okay, more than enough. You see, we just gonna exist in the perpetual state of abundance. Okay, so by the time you get to, you know, King David, when we got to King David, they was already playing with trillions. By the time you get to King Solomon, there ain't no counting. You see, this is what they was talking about in the book of Acts, man. Okay, it says this verse describing the dedication of the temple in Jerusalem gives several insights into the resources and economic capacity of ancient Israel during Solomon's reign. Abundance of livestock, the sheer number of animals sacrificed, so many they could not be counted, shows that Israel possessed vast herds of sheep and cattle. Livestock was a major form of wealth in ancient Near East, so this abundance reflects economic strength and agricultural productivity. All right, now it says maintaining large herds require extensive pasture land. Then they had to have plenty of servants, water sources, and organized herding systems. Okay, this suggests that Israel had fertile land, effective agricultural management under Solomon's rules. All right, it says royal and national wealth. All right, because in order to maintain their livestock, man, you need a plush land. Okay, like I said, you got to have servants, you got to have, you know, it take a lot to maintain that much livestock, man. You know, and later on in that chapter, you know, it said King Solomon had his own personal, okay, livestock sacrifice 120,000 sheep. Okay, then they threw a 2-week party, a 2-week feast for the whole nation. But you gotta think this is just in the 2 weeks time. That's 2 weeks out of the year. What was You know, you gotta think it's just 2 weeks time. They did all this in 2 weeks, but life still, you know. It says such lavish offerings could only be supported by a prosperous monarchy and population. I mean, everybody had. Okay, it implies that both Solomon and the people could offer large-scale religious celebration as a sign of economic surplus. Okay, beyond mere subsistence living. Okay, and it says the willingness to use so many valuable animals for worship shows that religious institutions were well supported. It also reflects how national wealth was directed toward religious and cultural expression, reinforces unity and identity under Solomon's leadership. Okay. So let's get a few precepts. You know, I just want to bring out. All right. I just want to bring that out, man. You know. As I had mentioned, the golden age the other day in the lesson, I just want to tap into that. So let's go here. All right, let's get a few precepts and show you how this is what we're coming back to, man. Okay? While America, you know, is circling the drain, this is what we got coming. All right? This is yep. 1 Kings 4:20. And it says, the people of Judah, this in the NLT, the people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand of the seashore. They were very contented with plenty to eat and drink, chilling. Good. Okay? You know, everybody was straight. You see, generational wealth, national wealth. All right? Lucky. So let's jump down and say verse 21. Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates River in the north, the land of the Philistines, and the borders of Egypt in the south. The conquered peoples of those lands sent tribute money to Solomon and continued to serve him throughout his lifetime. And you jump down, okay? It says, during the lifetime of Solomon, all Judah and Israel lived in peace and safety. And from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, each family had his own, his own home and garden. Everybody had their own estates. Everybody had their own estates, man. Okay? A whole world of time. All right? And this is the time that the Lord is going to revamp in the earth up on a whole nother level. You see? And then we back. We already here. Like I say, we just waiting on this nigga to come on with the come on. You see, Esau dragging his feet and keep kicking the can down the road. He got to go with his move. This next. Esau, the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows, man. We right back. When this nigga fall, we right back. Oh, what a time to be alive, man. You see? As a believer, okay? So I'm gonna read this in KJV, and then I'm gonna go in prophecy to show you that this gonna be revamped. It says, "And Judah and Israel dwelt safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon." Okay, and this tribute that was paid to King Solomon, guess what? That's coming back. Hey, these nations finna be tributaries unto us, man, forever. Okay, well, let's go here to the book of Micah, chapter 4. All right, this is the book of Micah, chapter 4:1. It said, "But in the last days, the times we are now, shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord, the government," okay, because at that time, the chief government in the earth was Israel. When you go back to King David and King Solomon, that was the chief government. That's why everything flowed into it. All right, showing you that the Lord is going to press play on the kingdom of Solomon in a much glorified state, man. We're perfected now. And Yahushua, that's King Solomon perfected. Okay, none of us will never go off. The sons of God, you read about in Genesis the 6th, they fell off. See, we're going to be perfected. Adam perfected. You see, we're going to be perfected now. Ain't no falling off this time. All right, it said, but in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord, Yahweh Shemal Shah, shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and the people shall flow into it, just like they flowed into King Solomon. Okay, and many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, Yahweh Shemal Shah, and to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth out of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. You know, and even above the wealth, man, righteousness is going to be the standard in the earth. Okay, righteousness is going to be the standard. No more, all right, wickedness. Okay, being a culture in the earth. There's going to be no alphabet community. Okay. Soon as that's even, you know, soon as that happens in the kingdom, instant judgment. It ain't gonna turn into no community. Okay, ain't gonna be no drill music and, you know, thought coach. Ain't gonna be none of that. Baby daddy, baby, all this gonna be done away with, man. It's gonna be righteous order. You know, the earth is gonna give forth its abundance. It's gonna go back to, you know, a paradise, man. You see? And righteousness is gonna be the standard. And we're going to have the authority on the Yahweh Shah to force it and enforce it. It says, and he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, and nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Okay? So no more wars. And see, they said they're going to turn their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Yeah, because they're going to have to get to work. Because they're going to have to maintain our substance, man. Okay? See, the heathen, they're going to turn our raw resources into products. They're going to make the resources convenient for us to use. Okay? We're going to own vineyards, but we're not trading any grapes. Okay? We're going to have streets of gold, but we're not going to have to do any construction work. Okay? Actually pave, you know, those roads of gold. Okay? We're going to have lavish palaces. We're not going to build any palaces, man. All right, and we're gonna have all this livestock. We're not gonna be maintaining these livestock, man. This is all the unemployment rate in the kingdom is gonna be 0%. Okay, everybody gonna have something to do. Okay, all the heathen is gonna be plenty to do. You see? So let's go here. It says, nation shall not lift a sword against nation, because we can be a kingdom of life, man. Okay, all these never-ending wars of Esau, you know, he's always into something, always, you know, especially now this nigga just everywhere, you know, declaring war on everybody. Okay, now it's gonna be done away with. Okay, verse 4, this is the point. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts have spoken it. You see? So letting you know, we're going back to the era where everybody's going to be straight, man. You know, and nobody's going to be disappointed what the Lord has for them in the kingdom. You know, and no one's going to be covetous over anyone else's possessions in the kingdom, man. We're going to be good, man. You know, we're going to be beyond, all right, well off. Okay? From the greatest to the least. Okay? So let's go from there, because I say these nations, they're going to come and be taught of those ways. They're going to have to come check in. All right. And they're going to have to implement, okay, our standard, you see, amongst themselves, man. All right. You go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 60. Okay. Isaiah 60. All right. And In 10, it says, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls. These are heathens. They're going to be, construction is going to be number one. Construction and agriculture. Okay, it's going to be the number one, okay, industries in the kingdom, man. Construction and agriculture. You see, and their king shall minister unto thee, for in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. And this is us being restored. Okay, so in his anger, you see where we at. Okay, you see what the Lord's anger, making the Lord angry, where that got us. Okay, but now now the Lord's anger, okay, is being appeased, and now he's getting ready to have favor. Okay, and see, we finna come into a favor like never before. It said, therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that the kings may be brought. Okay, and the forces goes into, their labor and their resources. Okay, showing you what they're going to be tributary. So let's get this word forces. Okay, they're going to be donating labor, resources. Okay. Let's see that the forces. All right. Hayal. All right. In Hebrew, Hayal. All right. Hayal. And it says strength, might, wealth. Okay. Ability. Okay. You see that? And the means or other resources. Means or other resources. Okay. Wealth. You see? Substance. You see riches. Goods. You see? It says that their strength, the activity, which is their labor. Okay, that's all that's going to flow into us, man. All right. So going into it, it says, for the nation, all right, the kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. And we know after 1,000 years, Esau gonna be done away with. Because he just ain't built to get it. Okay, as long as this nigga is here, all right, their rebellious, wicked seed, all right, it's in him. He just got to get out of here. You see, he can't be given any liberty after 1,000 years. He got to get destroyed. The heathen, they're going to have, their liberties under us after that 1,000 years. Okay, but they're going to have to continually check in. They're going to be continual servants. Okay, and they're going to be continual tributaries. Okay, but Esau, he can't get, he got to go. Okay, it says, verse 13, the glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious, all right, which is the earth. Scripture say what the earth is a footstool. Okay, the Lebanon going into that cedar wood. Okay, like I say, it's gonna be a lot of building. It's gonna be a lot of building, man. All right, and it says, it said, the sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and all they despise thee shall bow themselves down to the soles of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee external, excellently a joy for many generations. Okay? And this is us being restored. And all these heathens that look at us, because Esau has, the world looking at us like, we're less than. But those same people, those same heathens, all right, are going to be in complete subjection, man. Okay? This is what Yahweh Shai is bringing back. Okay? It says, thou shalt suck the milk of the Gentiles going into their resources and suck the breast of kings. Okay? And thou shalt know that I, the Lord, am thy Lord am thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. For brass I will bring gold. You see, this showing you it's going to be an upgrade. You know, so what the amount of brass we used to have, which was, you know, innumerable, the Lord gonna bring gold. And for iron, I will bring silver. Okay, remember King David gave brass and iron, all right, in abundance that it couldn't be numbered. So that's how we're gonna have gold this time. The way we had brass during the time of King Solomon and King David, we're gonna have gold like that. The way we had iron during that time, we're gonna have silver like that. Okay. It says, and for wood, brass, and for stones, iron, I will make, all right, thy officers peace and thine exactors, okay, righteousness, man. Okay. So we're finna see a major upgrade. Okay. A major upgrade, man. All right. And Yahweh Shai, he's gonna share that inheritance, okay, like he did as King Solomon. And see what King Solomon inherited from King David, he flipped it and shared it with the nation. Okay, he shared it with the whole nation. He flipped the inheritance of King David and shared it with the nation. He forwarded that throne. Okay, so when you go here to Ezekiel, you know, there's so much more, you know, to get into. But I want to get this in Ezekiel. All right, Ezekiel 36. It's the book of Ezekiel 36 and 5. It said, therefore, thus said the Lord power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, because them small heads finna get out of there, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful mind to cast it out as a prey. So the Lord is getting ready to get them small heads out of there, man. You know? And that's why, you know, that 12-day war they had, and shit wasn't going their way, they set their head down. Okay, but eventually the Lord gonna make them just go with their mood. They just have to go for it. Okay? Because when them small hats, you know, lock up with Iran for the long haul, that's it for them. Because it's gonna bring in them other nations and they out of there. Okay, so prophesy therefore concerning the land of Israel and say to the mountains and to the hills and to the rivers and to the valleys, thus said the Lord power, behold, I have spoken in my jealousy and in my fury, because you have borne the shame of the heathen. Okay, and how the Lord going to speak in his fury? Through World War III. Okay, hey, World War III is gonna smoke them gutter rats out of there, man. Okay, plus your house shot in the chariots at his return. Okay, that place is gonna be renovated. Okay, the Lord gonna give us a fresh, okay, cleansed blank canvas. Okay, to build with when we come back to that land. We're gonna have the resources. We're gonna have the human labor. We're gonna have the workforce. We're gonna have the manpower. Okay, to customize Israel to our liking. Okay, it said, therefore, thus said the Lord power, I have lifted up my hand. Surely the heathen that are about you, they shall bear their shame. Yeah, they're gonna be embarrassed. You know, all them heathens claiming their land. Okay, y'all gonna get embarrassed. Y'all gonna get obliterated out their land. Okay, then you going into captivity. Okay, it said, but ye, O mountains of Israel, you shall shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people of Israel, for they are at hand to come. Okay, and this is us being restored. You see, this is the true Israelites, the tribes. All right, the 1/3. All right, going to come back first. Okay, and then what? We're going to multiply. So there's going to be the rest of our people coming back. Okay, so for behold, I am for you, and I will turn unto you, and you shall be tilled and sown, and I will multiply men upon you, all the house of Israel, even all of it, and the city shall be inhabited, and the waste builded. And we just read who's going to build. Okay, you heathens. Okay, and I will multiply upon you man and beast. Okay, a livestock. You see, and they shall increase and bring fruit, and I will settle you after your old estates. I will do better unto you than at your beginnings, and ye shall know that I'm the Lord Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. Okay, so the Lord is going to do better to us than that golden age of King Solomon, okay, and King David. You see, so yeah, we can, brother got this. We can end with this. All right, so I just wanted to touch on that, bring that info out, paint a picture, Lord will, it made sense. But it's your brother Bayon Yashala, 144, it's Sirach 11:5. It said, many kings have sat down, all right, upon the ground, and one that was never thought of have worn the crown. Okay, and no one is considering, all right, whom the world calls Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, okay, to be those tribes. All right, that nobility, the sons of God, okay, that's gonna rule the earth forever in righteousness, man. All right, so we just waiting on this devil to fail, and we back. So Lord will, you brothers and you sisters are edified. Till next time I say shalom, going yashala, a Bible ball soon, shalom.